Good evening, everyone. We're ready to start our program. So please feel free to come into this area.
Right here?
Yes. Okay, and we have a performance to start the evening with.
I mean, it's just totally, just pick it out when it's the innocent parts. I honestly don't know what to do with that. It seems like a really hot night, so. It is really cool.
We will be performing A Beautiful Noise by Alicia Keys and Brandi Carlile. I have a voice, started out as a whisper, turned into a scream, beautiful noise, shoulder to shoulder marching in the street, and you're all alone. And together, sorry, of thunder and rain. Now we have a choice, 'cause I have a voice.
I'm not living to die. Don't stand in a wasteland, look at me in the light. Stop living a lie and stand right next to me. You gotta put one foot in front of the other with a hand in a hand holding on to each other. Look out and rejoice, 'cause you have a voice. It is clear, it is stronger than your fear. It's believing you belong. It's a calling out the wrong. From the silence of our sisters to the violence of our brothers, we can rage through the pain of the night. I have a voice.
I have a voice, and I let it speak for the ones who aren't free. It's killing me. No one is saying what we need to hear. I will not let silence win when I see all the pain of our people in our hearts. There's no other choice. I have a voice.
It is loud, it is clear, it is stronger than your fear. It's believing you belong. It's for calling out the wrong. From the mouths of our mothers to the sons of our daughters, we can dream.
Speaking loud like our fathers,
We can hear.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us now? I have a voice. Started out as a whisper, turned into a scream, made a beautiful noise. Shoulder to shoulder, standing in the street.
When you're all alone, it's quiet. When you band together, thunder and rain. Now we have a choice, 'cause I have a voice.
Now we have a choice, 'cause I have a voice.
I have a voice.
I have a voice. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laura. Tarek. It is my honor to welcome you here tonight to celebrate the artists and celebrate these noteworthy American women. So I feel very lucky and very privileged to be asked to host this event. And one of the reasons I think that I was asked is that I know all of these women who are being celebrated tonight, who are speaking tonight. I've had cause to be involved with all of them in various different aspects of the community, fighting for women. So I'm the former president of the National Organization for Women, the Arizona chapter. I recently stepped down to run for office. So I'm running for State House. And part of the reason that I'm doing that is because I'm so inspired by all of the women that we are celebrating tonight, all of the women who put this event together, and all of the speakers. So this is not about me tonight, so I'm honored to continue this program and introduce you to our fabulous speakers. So we're going to start with Annalise Ortiz. She is a Latina civil rights activist, former journalist, and formerly with the ACLU. Born and raised in Arizona, auntie to 6 kids, Annalise is also running for office, which I hope she tells you about. She has a deep commitment to strengthening public schools, tackling our housing crisis, and bringing more community resources to Glendale and Maryville. So Annalise, it is my privilege to introduce you.
Thank you, Laura, so much. Laura is an incredible friend, and I really appreciate you being here. And I appreciate being able to celebrate all of these incredible women who made it possible for young women like me to run for office in the first place. So thank you, Suzanne, and everybody who put this together tonight. My name is Annalise Ortiz, and I want to talk to you about my experience being a feminist activist here in Arizona. I often say that the women who taught me feminism would never call themselves feminist. I grew up in a very traditional Catholic household. We learned the story of Eve, who committed the ultimate sin of giving a man an apple, and he ate it as though if he didn't have a say in the matter. And we often were taught to honor La Virgencita, the Virgin Mary, always with an emphasis on the virgin part. She was pure and modest. She wasn't like these pop stars we saw on TV, like Britney Spears dancing around in a schoolgirl outfit, inviting bad attention from the boys. But nevertheless, me and my 5 siblings, we were being raised in modern America in the 90s, and we were often listening to Britney Spears and watching her music videos, me and my sister and my brothers, especially my brothers. And Baby One More Time would be playing throughout my house over the sound of my brothers and I yelling at each other, and my mom clanging pots in the kitchen as she cooked. My mom is an amazing cook. She specializes in traditional New Mexican food. I actually just stopped at her house for a bite to eat before this because campaigning is very hard and very busy, and I knew she'd have food. And sure enough, there was homemade tortillas and beans and her world-famous chili meat in the fridge waiting for me. And when my mom would cook for her 6 kids, she would always serve her own plate last. And I remember watching her sit down to eat, struggling to even eat her own meal as she breastfed my baby brother at the same time. And my mom learned this selflessness from her mother, my Grandma Grace, who lives in Las Cruces, New Mexico. My family line goes back many generations in New Mexico before that land was even called the United States. And when we'd go visit my Grandma Grace, she would be cooking enough rice and beans to feed a small army. She had 9 children and 30 grandchildren in just 1 generation. Imagine that, preparing a meal for more than 30 bodies that all sprung from her own. There is something magical and heroic about that. And when it would be dinner time at my grandma's house, all the kids would rush in from playing outside, ready to eat, and my mom and my aunts and my grandma would be sitting around the kitchen table, glowing this feminine energy, their laughter roaring throughout the already noisy home. And when you would get closer and really listen to what they were talking about, it wasn't so picture perfect. They were often talking about how hard it was to be raising children. They would talk about the things their husbands did that pissed them off that day. They would be talking about their past, painful things in their past, like our grandfather's death, sexual abuse in the family, abusive partners, and how they escaped. And I was closest to 4 of my girl cousins. We called ourselves the Girls Club. And we would listen to these conversations, and we were learning and we were absorbing like tiny sponges. We were making decisions in those moments, that we wanted a different future for ourselves, that we wanted to decide who we would marry and when we would get married, that we would decide whether we wanted to become parents and when we wanted that to happen. We would decide whether we wanted to have an education. We decided that we wanted to become business owners and journalists and speech pathologists. And we were fortunate to be able to grow up, and because of that strong foundation that was laid by the women in our lives, we were able to achieve our dreams. And my deep passion for making sure that all women have the ability to decide for themselves, whether it's decisions related to their families and growing their families, whether decisions they make about their education. My passion for this leads the work that I do today, especially because I am now an auntie to 5 girls. I fight against unjust laws that are proposed at the state capitol every year. I do this through my past work at the American Civil Liberties Union and through my current work as a board member for the Desert Star Institute of Family Planning. And of course, when we think about the feminist fights at the Capitol, we think about the bills that are introduced every year that would force people to become mothers against their will, to become parents against their will, by taking away their right to access abortion care. And there are other feminist fights that are happening at the Capitol. Right now, state lawmakers are trying to stop trans girls from playing sports with their friends and having access to gender-affirming health care. That is a feminist fight. There are bills that are being introduced that would send mothers who are suffering from substance abuse disorders to prison for longer periods of time, taking them away from their children and making it harder for them to heal from their trauma. That is a feminist fight. There are bills being introduced to make it easier for police officers, even more easier for police officers to get away with harming and killing a Black mother's child. That is a feminist fight. And on the federal level, President Joe Biden has unfortunately willfully continued some of the Trump era's most harmful immigration policies that shut our borders to mothers who have a legal right to seek asylum in our country and are coming here to make a better life for themselves and their children. And that is a feminist fight. And so we're honoring so many wonderful women here today, and I want us to remember the words of feminist scholars like Audre Lorde, Loretta Ross, and Sojourner Truth, who have talked about the importance of our feminism being intersectional and of centering all women in our fight: transgender women, Black women, Indigenous women, Latina women, Native American women, Asian American Pacific Islander women. And we must understand that if our feminism is not intersectional and inclusive, it's not quite feminism at all. As you can imagine, these issues that I fight for are at odds with what my grandmother and my mom and their deeply held Catholic beliefs teach them. And that is very difficult for us. But there are many things that my mom and my grandma have passed on to me. First, their amazing cooking skills, because I'm a damn good cook. Second, their selflessness and the value of giving back to other people because it's the right thing to do. And lastly, to stand firm in my beliefs and to fight hard for what I believe in. And so the same way that my mom and my grandma overcame so many struggles because of the strength of other women that they relied on, like my aunts as they would gather around the kitchen table, I rely on other women today to help me through this fight. I rely on my cousins who I'm still very close with. I rely on strong women leaders in my community, and I rely on people like you. And so my ask for you today is to find an organization that is led by those who are most directly impacted by the issues I talked about tonight, and find a way that you can get involved. Can you volunteer your time, maybe make a financial contribution? Can you bring a friend to attend a workshop to learn more about the challenges that other communities are facing? There are many ways that we can stand in solidarity with all women. and make sure that we are fighting for true liberation. And I want to close with one of my favorite quotes from Sojourner Truth that I'm going to read because I didn't want to mess it up. And Sojourner Truth said, "If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, these women together ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again." Thank you so much.
Oh, Annalise. It's always a joy to listen to Annalise. Our next speaker is Demetra Presley. So she founded her own nonprofit, Go With The Flow, after realizing that students were missing school because they lacked access to menstrual hygiene products. She expanded that work to include unsheltered neighbors as well. So what Demetra does with her organization is provide those menstrual hygiene products free of cost to students and unsheltered neighbors. And the quote that I love from Demetra that I think sums everything up about her is, "Menstruation should not stop education, period." So Demetra, it is an honor to introduce you.
Good evening, everyone. So I thought that I would start my presentation this evening with a speech that Gloria Steinem presented in 1978. She posed a question, and that question was, what would happen if suddenly, magically, cis men could menstruate and cis girls and women could not? What would that world look like? Her answer was, men would brag about how long and how much they bled every month. Boys would mark the onset of menses, that longed for proof of manhood with religious ritual and stag parties. Statistical surveys would show that men did better in sports and won more Olympic medals during their periods. TV shows would treat the subject openly, as would newspapers and movies. Congress would fund a national institute to help stamp out monthly disorders. Period supplies would be federally funded and free. Military men, politicians, and religious fundamentalists would cite menstruation as proof that only men could serve in the army, occupy political office, be priests and ministers or rabbis. Medical schools would limit women's entry because we might faint at the sight of blood. The power justifications would go on and on and on. That world is imagined, however, that is not the reality. The reality is what we are standing in this evening, which is a beautiful exhibit of a demonstration of women's power. In the last couple of years, we have seen the re-emergence of the women's movement, from the Women's March in Washington to the Me Too movement.
Bring the mic towards you. Get on it.
Is that better? Oh, no, we still have a little feedback. Move this over here. Yeah. Did we go that way? Was it the phone? Nope. I think the microphone is rejecting me wanting to talk about periods this evening. But as I was saying, in the last couple of years, we've really seen this re-emergence of the women's movement. We have seen the Women's March on Washington. We have had the Me Too movement. We have seen establishments really talking about gender and racial inequity and how that shows up in pay, how that shows up in opportunities, and how that shows up in representation. We are seeing real life activism before our very eyes in sexual predators and abusers being held accountable. Right now, in this moment, we are seeing more women than ever before run for office and win. And shout out to the candidates that are here tonight that represent us currently, and the women who are stepping up and want to change how things are done here in Arizona and how our communities are represented. As we push forward, however, to this idea of gender equality, we have to remember to keep menstrual equity in that conversation. Currently, in the United States today, 1 out of 4 menstruators cannot afford period products. 1 out of 5 students will miss school or class because they do not have access to menstrual supplies. Unsheltered community members face a higher rate of infection because they are overusing the product that they do have access to, or they are making menstrual supplies out of things that are very unhygienic and unsanitary. We have heard the stories of incarcerated women who have had to beg and bargain to be provided pads and tampons, which is just another demonstration of the power imbalance that is present in our jails and prisons today. This is an issue that is prevalent across the United States, and access to period products is a right. It impacts a person's ability to receive an education, it impacts their ability to attend school, it impacts their ability to show up and function in everyday life. Yet, millions of menstruators across the world do not have access to not only period products, but they lack the resources and access to waste management, to education, to support, to manage their cycles safely and with dignity every single month. Go With the Flow was created in Arizona to meet that need. We became that resource because there was no resource for students attending our schools, for unsheltered community members, for low-income community members living here in our neighborhoods to access the period products that they needed. Since our creation in 2017, and since our first donation of period products in 2018, we have provided for the care of over 40,000 Arizonians here. With the support that we have from community members, from folks who are willing to pick up period products for us while they are getting their own at the grocery store, from those who are willing to take $5 or $10 extra to donate to us every single month, for those of us who are just willing to share a Facebook post or a social media post about our organization, so folks who have a need for these items know they have somewhere they can go. It is because of that that we have been able to do the work here. We have partnerships with over 200 schools across the state of Arizona, which means that students, when they go to school and they start their period unexpectedly, or they run out of items that they did bring with them, or they're coming from financial backgrounds where their parents, legal guardians, caregivers cannot afford to provide those items to them, they have access to the things that they need, and they can do so without having their education interrupted, which is crucial. For low-income and homeless community members who have used things like paper towels, newspapers, socks as a makeshift period products, they have somewhere they can go. They can go to the community partners that we have in the form of homeless shelters, food banks, clothing closets, outreach groups, to be provided the items that they need to manage their cycles safely and with dignity. That's the other component of it. In 2022, anyone who menstruates should be able to have access to the products that they need, period. That's not even a pun, it's just period. I invite anyone who is interested in learning more about what they can do within their own group, organization, household, if they are interested in learning more about advocating for this cause, to please come and join us in the work that we are trying to do here. It's not only about providing the direct service of meeting the need, which is making sure that that student or community member has a period product. It's also about advocating for legislative policy that will implement long-term sustainable change. It's about advocating that schools provide product for students for free. It's about advocating for the removal of the sales tax, which in many states across the United States, pads and tampons and panty liners and other period products are subject to, which makes them less affordable and more expensive and harder to access for those who need them. It's about being unafraid to talk about periods. It's about being unafraid to challenge that perception that we shouldn't talk about it. We treat periods as any other healthy, normal bodily function because that is what it is. We treat periods as a public health issue because that is what it has become when people's work and education and general health are impacted because they lack access to period products. And I invite each of you to do the same within your own households and communities. Thank you.
One of the things that makes tonight so special is that not only are we celebrating these great women that you see featured on the walls, but we're celebrating the resources and the amazing accomplishments that women are taking care of here in the Valley to make sure that we are honoring all women and supporting them in what they need, whether that's menstrual hygiene products or in the case of domestic violence, that they have somewhere safe to go. So I want to introduce, and I apologize, I am going to get my phone. We'll hope that it goes okay. I am proud to introduce Len Gutman. He is the Director of Philanthropy at Sojourner Center, one of the Valley's longest running domestic violence shelters. He has more than 30 years of experience in corporate communications, public relations, and nonprofit development, and is the author of a book on volunteerism called Giving Time, Making a Difference in Your Community. He was also a columnist and contributing writer for the Arizona Republic. He joined Sojourner Center in 2021 after working in development at both the Special Olympics Arizona and the American Heart Association. Worldwide, 1 in 3 women are affected by domestic violence. Domestic violence does not discriminate. It affects everyone in every community. Sojourner Center houses people who are not only have been victims of domestic violence, but have also been victims of sexual assault and human trafficking. So on any given night, an average of 200 individuals stay at Sojourner Center, half of whom are children escaping violence with a parent. Len says he has been profoundly impacted by the stories of the women and men who come to Sojourner Center, and he is dedicated to helping make the 45-year-old organization a safe, respectful, and welcoming temporary space for all survivors of violence. Len.
Hi, thank you, everyone. I've only been with Sojourner Center for 4 months, so I have notes so I get my statistics right. Ordinarily, I would just really, be as passionate and wonderful as the speakers we've heard so far. But I really want to just thank the artists for including Sojourner Center in this event tonight. It was really just a coincidence that I knew somebody who knew somebody who knew the artist. So it sort of feels like what we call Sojourner magic. And so again, I'm really excited to be here and proud. And it's really nice to have heard so many Sojourner Truth quotes this evening, as we are named after Sojourner Truth. Right now, about 2 miles to the east of us, where we stand, while we're here celebrating these amazing women, and they are all amazing women, there are 200 or so women and children at Sojourner Center who are escaping domestic violence, sexual assault, and trafficking. We've been around since 1977, so we are one of the longest running domestic violence shelters in town. And it's not just domestic violence, as I mentioned, it is also sexual violence and trafficking. They do go together. Here are some things to think about. Police in Arizona respond to a domestic violence call every 5 minutes, resulting in 50,000 calls a year. Sojourner Center gets about 1,000 calls a year to our hotline. Every 44 minutes in Arizona, a child witnesses a domestic violence incident. More than half of our 1,000 annual residents are children. 62% of women killed by intimate partners in the last year on record were shot to death. We certainly need to do something about guns, don't we? 1 in 5 women in the United States experienced completed or attempted rape during their lifetime. 1 in 5. Nearly a quarter of the men in the US reported some form of sexual violence in their lifetime as well. We have men at our shelter pretty regularly. About half of female victims of rape reported being raped by an intimate partner, and 40% by an acquaintance. Historically, sexual violence victims, they face reactions of disbelief and doubt when they report their crime, so they often don't report their crime. That can cause even more trauma, and it decreases the likelihood that they will pursue justice and healing. That's why we celebrate with the words, "Start by believing." And I'll bring that up again in a few minutes, but there's a national movement where we say, "Start by believing." In 2020, there were 10,583 situations of human trafficking reported to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, involving 16,658 individual victims. Shocking as those numbers are, that is probably just a small fraction of trafficking. Risk factors for trafficking include recent migration or relocation to a new city, substance abuse, mental health concerns, and just being involved in the child welfare system, being a runaway or a homeless youth. Often, the traffickers work by creating a dependency. That's their MO. Human trafficking is often confused by human smuggling. It's not the same thing. That involves bringing people across borders. Human trafficking is a crime that takes place typically anywhere where there's any movement against the will. Survivors can be recruited and trafficked in their hometowns or even in their own homes. Now, those are some shocking statistics, but Sojourner Center and places like ours are around to take care of these people when they need help. We are an emergency shelter. We have 30 shelter units where individuals can stay for up to 60 days. We also have a transitional housing center where families can stay for up to 2 years. We have a 24-hour crisis hotline. We have a pet companion shelter. We are the only place where you can come if you've been experiencing domestic violence and bring your dog or cat or lizard or turtle. We have had them all. We have an amazing pet shelter, and we are now working on allowing some of those pets into rooms as well with the families. If you're a pet person, you know it could be a reason why you don't leave a domestic violence situation. We have a child development center on campus. It's a classroom for kids. It's full all the time. We have after-school programming. We have childcare support in the evening. We have youth support groups and other support groups. We have advocacy resources. We have lay legal services. We're not a legal organization, but we have people that provide our residents with the opportunity to get to the legal services they need. And then we have workforce development programs. These people need to start over oftentimes, and we really need to help them. So it's a really amazing institution. I'm really proud to work there. And again, I've only been there a few months, but I'm learning so much. We do have 2 co-directors. It's very unique and innovative, and they are wonderful women. Sorry for being a man tonight, but I am a feminist. I'm not quite high enough on the woke scale according to my son, but I'm getting better. All right, so this is how you can get involved with Sojourner Center. Again, we've been in the community for so long. Please follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Sojourner Center. We love donations. You can go to our website, there's brochures up there as well, sojournercenter.org. We also have a resource center that is just like our own little Goodwill, where people donate clothing and toys and things for kids and health supplies and everything. We need it all the time. And we have a donation center for that specifically right on campus. So in kind, very important to us. We do some great fundraisers, that's my job. We are starting right now through April. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. We are doing a campaign called Start by Believing, hashtag Start by Believing. That is the place we should start. When someone comes forward, we start by believing. That doesn't mean we believe they're innocent. We don't know, but we start at a place of innocence and believing, right? So the fundraiser is Start by Believing. You come on, you hold up a picture of this hashtag Start by Believing, you share it on your social media. You may do a video of talking about why it's important to you and share it with your friends and family. So that's on our website as well, our Start by Believing campaign for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. We have amazing volunteers. We have over 1,000 volunteers who come out regularly, corporate groups, individuals. We have all kinds of needs, from working in the resource center, to working in the daycare center, to working on the landscaping, painting, you name it, we need it. Our building is from 1977, but it was built long before that. It's old. And we're working on making it over and making it more trauma-informed design, which is a very fascinating subject. How a room or a place is designed can be more soothing based on if you're using trauma-informed design things. It's a fascinating subject. We are eligible for the Arizona Charitable Tax Credit. If you have not yet done your Arizona tax credit, it's $400 if you're single, $800 if you're filing married or filing together. That is money that comes to us, all of it. If you donate $800, it comes to us. You take that as a tax credit on your Arizona taxes, you get an $800 credit. You get the money right back. It's free money for us. So if you've not done it yet, please consider that. And you can donate on our website from there as well. That's all I have. I really appreciate everybody listening, and thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing those resources with us of how we can get involved with Sojourner Center. So it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Diane Post. Diane is a friend, a mentor. She's also an attorney whose career has focused on fighting one of the chief causes of poverty and injustice in the world, the inequality of women and girls. Diane works with vulnerable populations all over the world to achieve their human rights and freedom from violence. Diane is a gender expert. She has also been at the forefront of the fight for the Equal Rights Amendment, particularly here in Arizona. Diane, we are so lucky to have you here, and everyone here, I hope you get a chance to ask Diane, please don't kill me for this, how she broke her ankle 2 years ago. It is my favorite story about Diane. Diane.
I am a good deal older than the two women and Laura who spoke earlier. I'm 75. So that puts me as a, what are we? Second round, what do we call it? Second wave, there we go, second wave. We did a lot of kicking down doors and kicking over obstacles so that these young women, Annalise, Dimitri, Laura, could do what they're doing today. So yay! We made mistakes, everybody makes mistakes. But we are doing that, and we're going to keep on kicking down doors. Now, I started when I was 6. I wasn't a lawyer yet, obviously, but I was a shit kicker already at 6. So, all right, well, I've worked on so many things in my life, but I'm going to focus on the ERA. The ERA started 99 years ago. 99 years ago! It was introduced into Congress by Alice Paul. Why the hell are we still talking about equality for women 99 years later? Tell me, somebody, tell me. You can't tell me because it makes no sense. All right, 50 years ago, March 22nd, 50 years ago was when Congress finally got it out of Congress and sent it to the states to be ratified. So look at our ERA Task Force Arizona website. We'll be doing some kind of a celebration or event on the March 22nd. What is the status today? The ERA is the 28th Amendment. Period. End of discussion. Article 5 of the Constitution says you have to have two things to be an amendment. Number one, Congress has to pass by 2/3 and send it to the states. They did that. Number two, 3/4 of the states have to ratify it. They did that. On January 27, 2020. So January 27, 2022, because it was a 2-year waiting period, it went into effect. Now, are there people who say I'm wrong? Of course there are. Every single amendment that sought to give more freedom, more equality in our Constitution has been fought against. The 13th, ending slavery. The 14th, equal protection. The 15th, black men voting. The 19th, women voting. Every one of them have been hard fought because people don't want to extend freedoms in the United States to the vulnerable people. Every one of them. It's not unusual to have such fights. Others have also been fought over, but none so viciously as these that would give extended privileges to people. Not privileges, bullshit. Rights. Rights. Okay, so it's in. All right, now where are we? There was a lawsuit filed by Nevada, Illinois, and Virginia in Washington, D.C. against the National Archivists to publish it. Now, Virginia has gone from Democrat to Republican, and Virginia pulled out. Oh, I'm so surprised, aren't you? So it's still, but legally, it doesn't make any difference. So we still have Nevada and Illinois, and that case is in briefing. And yesterday, the United States filed their brief. Now, it will come as no surprise to anybody that under the previous administration, the president and the Department of Justice, under the previous administration, whose name shall not be mentioned, filed against the ERA. That will be no surprise to you. So we had hoped that the current administration would come in on our side. They did not. What they filed was, it's none of our business. Now, it is true in some sense. The executive has no role in passing an amendment. That's true, there's no role. So just shut up. You don't have any role in this. But the other thing they said was, nor does the court. It's up to Congress. Because if you look at the way Article 5 of the Constitution is configured, it says Congress does this. All right, so where does that leave us? What else they said, what is positive to us is, and we believe this, the archivist does not need to publish it for it to be the 28th Amendment. That is not necessary. When the Constitution was passed, there was no archivist. Was there? No. Hi, Mitzi. No, of course not. There was no archivist. So it didn't matter. You didn't have to have a publishment by the archivist. And that's what we're saying. It is the 28th Amendment. You have to abide by the Constitution. That's it. And we don't care whether well, we do care if he publishes it. It'd be nice for us. But if he doesn't, it's still in. It's still done. And that at least the Biden administration said that. So what do? We go back to Congress. What's going on in Congress? The House has already passed an amendment saying this timeline is irrelevant, is no good, et cetera, et cetera. How many lawyers are out there? Wave your hand. Any other lawyers besides me? One. Okay. What's in the preface of a law is not the law, is it? No. So the timeline was in the preface to the amendment. It was not in the amendment. There were amendments that had the timeline in the amendment. But this one did not. It was in the preface. Any lawyer will tell you, unless they're lying, which they do, that if it's in the preface, it's not the law. So it's not the law. So the House passed an amendment last year saying, you know, it's useless, there's no timeline, forget it, it's in. The Senate still has to pass that. And you know, we have problems in the Senate, don't we? Yeah, we do. All right, it's SJ Resolution, Senate Joint Resolution 1. So put that in your little brain, put it in your phone, whatever you need to do. Both of our senators have signed on it. Took a while, but they both did. But we need it passed by the Senate. A second thing has happened in Congress, and this is again not unusual. It's House Joint Resolution 891. And this is a resolution from the House that says the 28th Amendment is passed, it's done, it's in, yay, thank you very much. This is not unusual, this has happened before. Does anybody know what the 27th Amendment is? Anybody know? How many years did it take for the 27th Amendment to get passed? Well, let me just tell you, the 27th Amendment is the one that says you can't raise your salary in your seat while you're sitting in it. So if you pass a raise to the salary of the senator or the salary of the House, it doesn't apply until after the next election, in which you may not be sitting in that seat. So you can't raise your own salary while you're sitting in the seat, okay? That makes sense, right? Yeah, I like that. So that's the 27th Amendment. How many years did it take to pass that amendment? Who knows? 202 years. 202 years. It was introduced with the original Bill of Rights back in 1789. It did not pass in 1789. It passed in, I don't know, 1992 or something like that. 202 years later. So tell me why the Equal Rights Amendment that went out to the states 50 years ago is too many years past? Are women still not deserving to be equal? Is there a time limit on equality? No. So that time limit argument is horsepucky. Horsepucky, okay? So that's what, after the 27th Amendment passed, Congress did this. They passed an amendment saying, yay, yay, we passed the 27th Amendment. Okay, so now they've passed one saying, yay, yay, we passed the 28th Amendment. So nothing unusual. So that's where we are. The action we need is for the Senate to pass SJ Res 1. It still does not end the lawsuit, but it takes away a legal argument from the opposition. Okay? So the interveners, who are the unratified states, they also argue that, it's quite funny, they argue that the 14th Amendment gives us all equality, so we don't need the ERA. So the ERA must only be introduced for what? Abortion. Oh, yeah. That's their biggest argument. That and men and women might have to use the same bathroom. Have they never been on an airplane? Or in your house, there you go. Or in your house. They may have to use the same one. All right. So anyway, that's where we are. So the lawsuit, they filed their briefs. Now our side files are answering to their briefs, and then there'll be oral argument probably in September or something like that. And then we'll see what the court does. In the meantime, the pressure's on the Senate to pass that SJ Res 1 to take away that legal argument. Now the other argument that the other side uses, and anybody who was in the legislature the last couple of years, Mitzi, I know you heard this, is rescission. Oh, but 5 states have rescinded. So that means you don't have 38, you only have 33. Well, this happened in the past too. It happened, states passed it, and then they changed political parties and tried to take it back. And every single case that's gone to the Supreme Court said what? No, you cannot do that. How can you have a law, you pass a law, and then a few years later you change parties and you change the law? How the hell would you run a country like that, right? You can't do it. It's a one-way street. You pass the amendment, you're done. That's it. There's no going back and changing it again. So every time this has been filed in the Supreme Court, it's lost. Did you know that the 15th Amendment, the 13th Amendment, now I got that wrong too, it's the 14th. The Due Process Amendment, New Jersey tried to pull it back? New Jersey. Who thinks about New Jersey trying to pull back a Civil War amendment? But they did, they lost. Every time. So that rescission argument is no good either. So the Equal Rights Amendment is the 28th Amendment. Period. End of discussion. Okay? Okay. So we still need your advocacy. The Equal Rights Amendment Task Force Arizona still exists. Arizona needs to ratify it. Yeah, really. We are one of the 12 unratified states. So Arizona needs to ratify it, and we're not giving up till we do, and we join the rest of the civilized country. And we also want to pass a state ERA. So go to our website, check us out. There we are. Thank you very much.
A force of nature, Diane Post. I love it. So I am now pleased to introduce Sedona Meadows. She is going to be creating a film that will encapsulate, tonight, as well as these beautiful artworks, so that people can view this online as well. She's a student at the Cronkite School of Journalism with a very bright future ahead of her, and she is here to introduce her mother, Suzanne Whitaker, an artist for the Noteworthy American Women Project. Sedona.
Oh my gosh. Hi everyone. I'm Sedona Meadows. I'm Suzanne Whitaker's daughter. I know I can speak for her that it's just so amazing to see all of you here today. You all are so wonderful, and it means the world to both of us. I know how hard my mom has been working on this project. It's been a dream for several years now, and I think about growing up, how much my mom has just really pushed to follow like our dreams and just work towards these goals and follow our passion. And I can actually remember a time I was thinking back to my love for the community and where did that stem from, and I honestly owe a lot to my mom. I know when we moved out here when I was about 5 years old, she really worked to get us involved into the community and go above the Ahwatukee suburban bubble by starting up a Caring Kids Club where we would go to homeless shelters and we would help bring cans and we would do lemonade stands and raise money for certain causes. And I just feel like that it was a memory that struck me a few weeks ago, and I just owe so much to her for that, because I'm not who I am without her. So yeah, I have so many wonderful things to say about her. I didn't know what to say today actually, because just there are no words to describe how wonderful my mom is and just how much she cares about every human being. She loves everyone, and I'm just so proud of her and this project. It's growing up, I've watched a lot of her work. Throughout the school, she's done murals, and I would be the kid that would be like, my mom painted that, and it was so much fun. But yeah, I'm so incredibly proud of her, and seeing all of us, it's like full circle moment for me as a little kid going into the gym class and seeing a mural that she painted, and now I get to stand in front of all of you and say that my mom did all of this with beautiful Lainey as well. She worked so hard. Yeah. But yeah, I love you so much, Mom, and I'm so thankful for you and just how incredible of a role model, you've been to me and so many others. You are so strong, and I'm going to tear up thinking about it.
I'm tearing up. That's good.
I love you.
Anyway, I'll just stop talking and stop crying. Without further ado, my mom is Suzanne Whitaker. Also, one last thing, there's all these women in history out here, but my mom is part of that history tonight, so.
Oh, man. Whoosh. I'm not really a speaker, but I speak in pictures, all right? But I'll give it a go here. I actually just want to, this is reminding me of, in 4th grade, I recited the Earl King, and the lectern was really high and nobody could see me, and I was like I'm like, oh God, I gotta talk in front of people. Anyway. I really wanted to use this time tonight, first of all, to say that we don't do anything alone. None of us. We always have our support behind us. And, that includes women, men, our children. We have our whole support system that gets us to where we need to be and lifts us up too. So I really just wanted to take an opportunity today
to thank the people that have made this happen this evening. And it is a long list, so get ready. First of all, thank you to all our speakers and to Laura for being the MC tonight. Thank you, Laura, Annalise, Demetra, Len, and Diane. You all have so much experience, and I really appreciate you giving that to all of us tonight, sharing that. And to our lovely singers, Monica and Riley, did a beautiful job. And of course to Lainey, Prather. Lainey, where is it? Come. So, thank you, Lainey. So what started this whole project is Lainey and I, we were in a design group together, and it was for a silent auction to make a chair to take a seat. And we decided to do something that was along the path of the military assistance mission, which was our charity for the silent auction. And Lainey and I put our heads together, and I'm gonna get dry mouth right now. We put our heads together and our hearts together, and we really collaborated, and it really was very magical how that chair.
The Abigail chair.
The Abigail chair. Do you want to talk about
it? Well, we were doing the charity, so we came up with a chair, and we're brainstorming ideas for our chair. And Suzanne says, "I got an idea for our chair. It's going to be a wall." And I'm like, "Okay." So it turned into a wall, and she also was inspired, I think, in high school by 1776. Was that?
Oh yeah.
And so Abigail Adams was a big deal to her, and everything that Abigail did to kind of promote women to John Adams and through her letters. So that was kind of an inspiration. And somehow we kind of put all that together, and I do plaster, so we had some furniture makers help us do a lath plaster wall, and then we turned it into a chair. And then Suzanne, who doesn't think she does good portraiture, thinks she's not that great at it, painted Abigail Adams on our wall chair, and we were so excited about it because everything about it just came together organically and magically, like you said. And our chair was actually voted by the designers that were also participating as the favorite chair. So all of these designers voted for our chair as their favorite chair for the charity. That's awesome. And then after we were done with that, we were just kind of feeling like the climate was kind of getting weird about women, and things were just kind of strange. And I felt, and I think Suzanne, you felt too, that we wanted to let young women know that things aren't always easy like they are now. Sometimes, things were pretty weird for women, and we wanted them to kind of understand that there were a lot of women that fought really hard to make life as easy as it is for us today. And also, I was feeling like there were people that were maybe going to try to take away some of that ease for us. And so we kind of wanted to continue our portraits and kind of honor some of the women that fought so hard to make things better in their communities, so that young women could understand that it wasn't always like this, and that it might not always be like this if we let it slide. So that's kind of where our inspiration came from, to start honoring different women that we knew of. And the first one we thought of was Gabby Gifford. Just her strength. And so that was kind of where we picked it up. And then we just started thinking about different parts of our history and things that we wanted to highlight, people who had influenced us, but we also wanted to highlight women that may not be known to anyone, but maybe their families or their own communities. Unsung women. And of course we met Diane Post, and we were like, I'm like, that's her, that's the woman we're honoring, that's it. In a nutshell, is Diane. So anyway, I just want to thank everyone for coming, and thank you for just being here with us. And this is Suzanne's dream. She brought it across the finish line. She got it here. It's been many years in the making, and so I'm really, really proud of you for what you put together.
Thank you, and I'm proud of you too. Thanks. All right. So my list goes on with thank yous here. I've got to spotlight Dr. Cynthia Stanley. Where are you? There she is. She made this happen tonight. She is a professor in the Department of Bioethics and Medical Humanism here at the UA College of Medicine. And without her passion for the arts, we would not be standing here right now. She is a one-woman arts activist for the 4 floors of art in this building. And she, yeah, all 4 floors. And she has really guided us through the process, as the last time I had an art exhibit was in 1985 when I graduated from college. So here we are. And then of course our essential workers for the evening, we have our bartender and caterer, Francois. And I want to say thank you to Dr. Jonathan Kartsonis and Ajay. They both helped with the hanging of everything today, just totally volunteering. And Angel, the mover, brought it here got it from my house to here. And then of course our Walmart greeters, mother and daughter, Angela and Allison, who greeted everyone today. And then of course my children, my daughter Sedona, and I don't know where my son and his fiance are. Ian, Ian and Alyssa, because they're just pretty. I like how they look, they're nice people. And then I need to introduce my blood sisters who made the trip all the way from Florida and Ohio and just in California. It came a long way to get here. They all are, all my sisters, if they would stand up, they are wearing gold stars. And we have a brother and another sister at home, but they made the trip out here. And Rose stepped in as bartender as well tonight. Oh so. Really, she always gets things shaken up here. So. But they are my blood sisters, and I think we probably synced our periods at various times. All the friends and relatives who came in town, specifically my niece Jillian, her friend Emily, who's considering moving here to Phoenix, so let's give her a warm welcome. My best high school friend Jan, and my best college buddy Madeline made the trip too, from very far away. I want to thank Doreen Romney and her brother Roger, who gave us the story of Addie Jackson, which is right over here behind Dana. Appreciate all the information, because that all started up from a scrapbook, and it's a really beautiful story. They have such a legacy in their family that continues to do work for their communities, and I really appreciate that. Suzanne Hug, I believe she had to leave, but Suzanne is over in this one with her grandmother in the representation from the incarceration camps. Oh, and I have a thank you to Suzanne's father, who's right here, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. He was the one that shared quite a bit of information with me recently so that I could produce that. I don't know if Pamela Stewart is here. She's an ASU professor, but she is an expert on Ida B. Wells. And she shared a whole lot of information with me in a Zoom call. There was so much about Ida's life that I didn't even know how I was gonna do one picture about Ida. She started at 16 and taking care of her siblings when her parents died. And then she, to the end of life, she really was such an incredible journalist. She owned several papers, and she did quite a bit. Deb Rose, thank you for your information on Sister Louise Akers. She filled in some gaps on Sister's story. And Sister Louise, I don't know if you got to that story yet, but she was my high school teacher, my morality teacher at my all-girls Catholic high school. And I just loved her. She was one of my favorites. So Michael and Laura Levenberg, you guys are here somewhere. Oh, there you are. There. Thank you so much, because you donated the framing for the Oprah piece, which is over this way, which is incredible. Michael Clare donated the wood on the right side, and Kenny Foltz is the one that actually did the framing on that piece, and he followed my wacky directions, and I really appreciate that. So Patrick Dorsey, I don't know where you are in the group here, but I want to say thank you for helping me get all the D-rings and everything on the back and getting that all engineered the other day. That was quite a feat and it worked out okay. Holly, our photographer that's roaming around, thank you, Holly. Appreciate you being here. And in the past, we've used Reagan Norton, Jude Schroeder, and Sedona for doing some photography and video pieces over the 4 years we've been working on this thing. Let's see. Nalexia Galloway, are you still here? I'm not sure. She's the executive director for the Maricopa County Democratic Party. She gave us a lot of guidance on having events, and she provided some important addresses for us for tonight. She's offered to help any way she could on this whole journey. Kathleen Corley for acting as my editor on the online biographies, which I haven't gotten to yet, but I will. I still need to do a little bit of editing, tweaking on that. Paul Mariniak, who was kind enough to write an article and run it in the local papers this week about the show today. Next week, Shauna Fisher has put together, and she interviewed me for doing a piece on this whole show. It's going to air on PBS Arizona Horizon show next week. I'm not going to tell you what night because I want to look at it first and then I'll share the links. So that's coming up. And for all of you coming out tonight, I know we both really feel the love and we really appreciate that. But lastly, we want to say thank you to Abigail, Lulu, Oprah, Gabby, Frances, Nellie, Ida, Maria, Dolores, Heather, Muriel. Sorry, this chokes me up, man. I've been working with these ladies for quite a while. Connie, Judy, Louise, Addie, Beatrice, Virginia, Marie, Diane, Fuji, Suzanne, Marjorie, and for all the women who fight for us every day, who use their talents for the betterment of our communities, who call out the bullshit, and they do something about it. Let's toast to them. They walk among us every day. Thank you so much.
Does anyone have any questions for Suzanne about any of the pieces?
Or for the speakers too.
Or for the speakers? Which one is your favorite?
Oh gosh, I'm leaning towards Oprah probably. Yeah, probably Oprah. Yeah.
Well, I hope you get a chance to talk with Suzanne and ask any questions and enjoy this beautiful space with these beautiful pieces. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank you to Suzanne and Lainey and everyone who put this together. And thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if she wants to do that. She said she wants to get up. Where are we going to picture?
Right here.
Oh, right here.
She's just, unless you want to do it in front of a piece.
We can? Yeah, let's do it.